What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Simone of Voyager. Great to be able to talk with you. Thanks for being here today.
Great to be here.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. As I was telling you before we started rolling, I still jam the latest album, Colors in the Sun, like it was released yesterday. Excellent work. But we got this new virtual concert coming out September 5th, A Voyage Through Time. One thing I want to know is, being that this is sort of like a voyage through time with this special virtual, one-time concert, are we going to get like a special set list from Voyager that we normally wouldn't see otherwise?
Well, yeah, there's a funny thing with the set list actually. We kind of took some inspiration, not exactly, but just some inspiration from a fan made poll from our Voyager Australia fan page on Facebook. So, kind of inspired a lot of what we were doing. So, yeah, so there's a little bit of fan influence in there. And really all that we were going for was just to just take everyone on a trip through memory lane, really, through a long expanse of history.
So we're gonna get stuff from like the albums such as Universe or I Am the Revolution or The Meaning of I, etc. It's gonna go all along the spectrum.
Yep, you're going to get 2 tracks from each album.
Oh wow, I can't wait. Okay,
Yeah.
don't spoil
I
it.
don't know if I was meant to say that, but you've heard it here first.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
I think it actually has already been announced. So yeah, 2 tracks from each album.
So you mentioned that like a fan sort of like inspired this sort of visual aspect behind it. Could you like, was this something that I know it's kind of like a whataboutism sort of question, but was this maybe something you've always wanted to do, or could you have seen yourself doing this pandemic or no pandemic? This is almost kind of like a unique aspect in the Voyager time.
Well, it is. I think it's a very unique aspect in most bands and musicians' times
Yeah.
at the moment. So yeah, you're trying to come up with sort of new and inventive ideas of how to, I don't know, entertain and connect with your fans in a very, very different way. But I mean, yeah, look, the poll was, as I said, from the fan groups. So, and that really kind of lifted us when they sort of started doing that last year, going through sort of favorite songs of all time. It was sort of an all-time list of pick your favorite songs from each album to make the ultimate album list. So, my album track list with all the different songs. But yeah, we were just. We've always wanted to do something big and bombastic like this, I think. Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is the biggest thing we've done in terms of like lighting show. There's pyro. There's, I mean, there's a few interesting things going on there. So yeah, we've of course always wanted to do it. Would have loved to have done it with actual fans, but alas,
Yeah.
we have to do it this way.
Speaking of pyro, there's no chance at all Reconnected is one of the songs where there's going to be pyro, right? Because that was the first thing I thought of when I heard that song.
sorry to break your burst your bubble. That one's not on the list.
Okay.
But
I was just saying that when I think of Pyro and Voyager, like that to me seems like a match made in heaven.
with the double kicks and frenetic guitar playing
You
as
make
well.
Rammstein look like butt rock with that song.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that right now.
That's great.
Well, another thing that I wanted to ask is just because I thought maybe being that this year is the 10-year anniversary of The Meaning of I, that maybe that there going to be some sort of celebration in that regard as well, right?
Oh, that's actually a really, really good point. And it's actually, funnily enough, I was just thinking about this the other day. It's going to be 10 years at the end of this year since Ashley joined the band as well. So yeah, we've got quite a few things to celebrate over the coming sort of months. You look confused there. You're like, it's been 10 years?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what the hell? Time
Yeah,
flies.
I know. Time. What is it?
Well, if you don't mind me asking, can you take me back to the memory of the meaning of I in a way? Like, what was the sort of thought process behind the making of that album in a way 10 years ago that would lead to the evolution that we would get off of like Ghost Smile and eventually Colors in the Sun, etc.?
Oh, look, a lot of different things were going on in the meaning of I. I think I think every single member was going through quite an introspective and big change sort of moments in our life. So it was, and I think as well we had Ash just join not long. Oh no, sorry, Ash was after that. That was, I'm thinking of the video clip. Sorry. But yeah, we were going through a lot of introspective, deep thinking, a lot of changes in our life. Scott had just not long joined the band. So that was a massive change to actually have someone who I really, for the first time, like connected with on a musical level that, it just changed everything. I mean, we have a very, very special guitar relationship. You know, we just work like magically. So that was a massive change as well. And I think that's definitely had an effect on the sound for sure. Because, I mean, we've both got quite similar influences. But he kind of took me away from sort of more the old school influences. Obviously, he was younger than me, so he's sort of more into the sort of genty sort of stuff. And I got massively into that as we were hanging out and stuff as well. So that had a bit of a massive impact on it as well, changing the sound. But I think in terms of how we've kind of progressed from there, because you were asking about the future albums, once we actually had Ashley join the band as well, it was just like the five of us together is just the right pieces of the puzzle finally. Yeah. And it's just sort of felt like everything we've done from there has just made so much sense and just been rather seamless and stress-free in terms of sort of the writing and creative process and obviously touring and stuff as well. So once we had all five of us, that was just we just hit the ground running.
It seemed like the meaning of I was almost kind of like the turning point, I would say, in the Voyager destiny in a way. Like, and not to discredit stuff of I Am the Revolution and Universe and Element 5 and everything like that.
No, not at all. It definitely was a big change for sure. And you can hear it in the music. I mean, it's very, when I go back and listen to it, it's like, you can hear the mix of the different sort of the changes in the style going. So, and looks to give him his due. Scott is a big reason for that. So thank you, Scott.
Well, has the making of every album like started off with like a preconceived idea of what you wanted to sound like? Like with Colors in the Sun, I've always said that this could succeed at like, a heavy metal festival like a Hellfest or a Wacken or something like that. But I could easily see this played at a rave as well. Like I have a couple friends who hang out in the rave scene, and I played them Colors in the Sun, and they were like, "We need to get the DJ to like play this. This is."
Yeah, well, it's got some of that kind of early 90s sort of dancey, kind of trancey sort of sounds to it. So, yeah, you totally rock in a club.
Yeah. So, like, I was just wondering, like, does it ever start off with, like, a preconceived idea? Like, let's make it sound like this, or let's incorporate this element. Or is there just a lot of, like, organic, rolling the dice and see what works sort of formula?
No, well, back then as well, I mean, we've kind of changed the way we do the writing process over the years. It used to just be initially just Danny that was, bringing the majority of the song in. And then what we would do is all come in and piece it together, and turn it into like a sandwich. We would turn it into a sandwich. Yeah. He would sort of come in with the majority of the sandwich, and we would just be like the dressing sort of and add flavors to it, whereas as time has gone on, I think we've all sort of started being a lot more collaborative with one another, so that's certainly changed the writing process for sure. Back with Meaning of Vi and stuff like that, it was still, funnily enough, that was when it was getting a bit more collaborative. So you're right in hearing that there was some change going on in that point. We were really coming together with a lot of different ideas. I think every single one of us brought an idea to the table with that album. So yeah, that's probably why you've noticed that. But now it's just completely different. We used to when Ash joined the band, it was very collaborative. Now what we've started doing because of the pandemic, we're actually writing at the moment. We've just kind of found a whole new way of writing again. So it's always changing. It's like any relationship.
And being that your music is so, like, I would say, for lack of better words, like experimental in a way on how it almost seems like there's nothing that could be ruled out, right? It almost seems like anything could be. I think you perfectly avoid the pitfall of a Voyager song sounding too much like a Voyager song.
Oh, well, that's awesome, because we want it to sound like us, but yeah, we want obviously to surprise people still with what we're coming out with. So I'm glad to hear that.
In terms of like the technical execution of it, because with Colors in the Sun, for example, like I felt many different vibes behind it, because you have songs with very, very heavy riffing, like Reconnected or Water Over the Bridge or something like that are really down tuned and hard hitting. But then you have a song like Sever Romance that's like very slow and more, like, I would say, romantic and more slower emotionally based. Like, do you almost feel like every song requires like a different skill set to play, or are you incorporating many different techniques?
I mean, do you mean in terms of, are we thinking about that when we're writing it, or
are you thinking about it when you're writing, or even when you're playing it? Does it almost feel like switching
not
up?
really? It's all just comes real natural. It's we don't like to kind of force things when we're writing. Just ideas will come from the strangest places, and sometimes it'll just be in the room when we're just sort of jamming, or rehearsing, or in a writing session like what we've been doing during COVID. We've been actually doing writing sessions together, so on the computer and stuff, rather than in the rehearsal room, which is just completely new for us. But yeah, ideas will just come, and sometimes you'll get together and ideas won't come. You can't force you just have to go, that's not working, let's look at another tune, or we'll do something else.
Yeah, well, I have to say, being that all of your albums kind of have like a flow to it, I'd say it's great. I don't see one element of Voyager that seems forced. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, when I listen to Colors in the Sun, going from opening with Colors, ending with Runaway, I mean, that's just like it flowed together so perfectly, to the point where like I could tell just by listening to your songs that nothing was forced or nothing was completely taken out of left field.
Awesome. That's great, because nothing makes me happier than hearing that, because yeah, it's just all natural, all from the heart. I guess maybe the only thing we would do is, you're asking, do you take things into consideration, is that maybe, once you're about 5 songs into the writing process, you might know when an idea is going to click with what the rest of the album is sounding like. That's the only kind of consideration you would sort of take into it. But other than that, it's all just completely natural.
Yeah.
And I have to apologize, my cat is being annoying right now.
No,
you can hear her meowing.
It's all good.
She wants the door open, and it's like 12 degrees outside and it's freezing.
My favorite thing doing these Zoom interviews, because I always prefer doing interviews in person, but I love the cats. Like, I did an interview with Hideous Divinity, a brutal death metal band out of Italy, one time. And as he's like talking to me about this brutality, you just see his cat walking into the background, just photobombing the thing. It's amazing. Somebody said modern day business meeting is somebody sitting in front of a computer and they have their cat taped up on the wall to make sure they don't.
I'm gonna have to pick her up in a minute. Here she is.
Oh, what's good? What's the name?
Hello. Mocha.
Mocha.
Or you say Mocha? I don't know how you pronounce it. Mocha?
Mocha. But I love the cats in the Zoom interviews. And your cat.
Well, hopefully that's gonna leave us alone and stop meowing. So sorry to interrupt there.
Your cat, by the way, looks metal as fuck, I have to say.
Yeah, she's pretty badass.
Yeah, I think your cat's just calling us a bunch of posers right now.
Yeah.
Now, you joined the band. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you joined the band in 2006, right? Around there, like.
It was December 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you first joined the band, were you kind of like looking? Universe was your first full length album with the band, so were you kind of like looking at the first album, being like, okay, this is how I have to play, or being that it is gotten more and more collaborative, you were kind of able to bring in a little bit of your own mix into Voyager when you first joined them.
Yeah, look, I kind of joined under the. I was asked to join, but I kind of was like, look, I want to make sure we've got the chemistry first. So, but I will work with you with the album. They already had the album pretty much written. I think it was like 90% finished. And I was like, I'll definitely record the album with you guys for sure. But I just want to wait and see, like, once we jam together and see how it vibes. Well, we jammed like, and I like joined within like that because the vibe was just like amazing as soon as I was in the room with the guys. So it went out the window within 2 seconds. The whole like, oh, we'll just wait and see. Yeah, it was just magical. Was from the moment that we all played together, I just knew I was like, I have to join this band. Like, and I was also like a massive fan of Voyager anyway before I joined the band. But yeah, once we played the notes together, it was just like, yeah, I have to be in this band. Like, there was just no question. But yeah, in terms of like when we were actually tracking and stuff, I definitely still wanted to bring my sound to it. You know, I wanted people to hear my influence and just the way I played things. So I guess the way I maybe played certain passages, certainly would probably come through. I obviously have different phrasing to the previous guitarist, so I wanted to kind of add that kind of flair and character to it. And obviously my solos are the other way I can put my little signature on it. But other than that, yeah, it was, yeah.
Well, it's not just the soloing, but it's also like the rhythmic capabilities. Like, for instance, like Entropy is almost like the bridge between a ballad and a fast-paced like thrasher. It's like, so like I'm curious, when you're laying down your guitar parts, are you like following the pattern of the drums or the rhythm, or like how are you thinking about how to lay down, like knowing to solo over here, incorporate riffs over here, use this key over here? It almost seems like there's just multiple angles to approach it from.
Yeah, well, look, Entropy is an interesting one because that came about just sort of the piano idea Danny had. It was basically the piano idea with a click. So there was nothing else. So it was just the do 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 do. And so we were all just trying to come up with an idea. And I don't know how, like me and Ash just suddenly just started grooving, like, because we figured out obviously the bass notes for the changes. We just started doing this, like, I was like, it's like Michael Jackson meets Jen.
That's exactly Michael Gent. That's what I was calling it, Michael Gent.
Michael Jensen. But yeah, just sort of that just happened in the room. Like me and Ash just sort of started dun 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 dun, and it just sort of happened and came from there.
And then Einar from Leprous joined, and then all of a sudden,
but in terms,
and then you got Leprous collaborating.
In terms of like, what I'm thinking, yeah, look, I like to take into consideration for sure what the bass and drums are doing. Sometimes I'll even change a riff, like I'm sure Scott does the same thing. We'll change sort of phrasing of riffs if maybe Ash has done some sort of fill or something. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Kind of follow it more like how he's doing it, sort of to accentuate it. But yeah, definitely, I've always loved. My dad was a drummer before he played guitar as well as a band and in his country rock band. So
yeah, I see. Yeah, again, I see.
Maybe I think it's maybe in my in my genes that I've always been into rhythm big time, like I'm a big rhythm lover.
I wanted to ask you if like you've played drums or bass or some sort of rhythm oriented instrument before picking up guitar, because I've been able to tell like I've been able to tell by watching certain guitar players. I could just tell that the way that they pick and the way that they play, like, okay, that person definitely they know at least some steady beats on drums because they're just so
Yeah,
rhythm oriented.
I can hold a beat for like a little bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself a drummer though. But yeah, I love drums. It's like they're one of my favorite instruments. Yeah, and it's absolutely just amazing to work with such an incredible and creative drummer like Ashley. You know, he's just got a bit of everything. You know, so he's always very interesting to work with and write parts with.
Yeah. But if you play Reconnected live, he's in my thoughts and prayers because that sounds like a monster to play live.
I think Ghost Smile's the one that kills all of us.
Or
oh man!
Or,
Every time it gets to the black metal section, it's just like game over, guys. Why did we write this?
Or Water Over the Bridge, like those pitch harmonics after those heavy gent riffs. Like how the
yeah.
But I have two more questions for you actually. But I kind of wanted to touch upon. I actually just totally forgot. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the progressive scene in Australia because, like, you know, you fall into that progressive metal sort of catalog in a way, and you know, with in the wake of bands like Neobliviscaris and Caligula's Horse, kind of hailing from Australia. I know Australia is a big country, but like, I'd imagine I've been saying that Australia has been leading the scene right now in metalcore. But now it seems like it's really been leading the scene in progressive music as well. Do you believe that there is kind of like a scene that Voyager is affiliated with in Perth?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't even just say it's Perth. I think it's quite Australia wide now. I mean, and you're seeing that, like you said, in the metalcore scene and a lot of the other sort of heavy scenes as well. I actually think heavy music as a whole in Australia is, God, it's so healthy in terms of the actual content that's coming out. There's some great music that's coming out of bands, from anything from sort of like black metal to sort of indie sort of rock music. So yeah, we've got such a great music scene here in Australia. I'm so glad that it's starting to get recognized a lot more. You know, you sort of hear a lot more media, music media sort of talking about Australian bands and musicians, and, you know, they've got an active interest in sort of researching all the different bands. You know, you hear it all the time. They're like, oh, I was kind of got into this Australian band and I went on a Australian band sort of search rabbit hole, you know, and then they sort of become fans of all the bands. So yeah, I think it's quite connected. We've done quite a few. I don't know if you've sort of seen in the past when you've followed our social media, we've done a lot of kind of prog fests, as well around Australia. So to the point where they actually brought international bands like Leprosofa. So yes, I think prior to the pandemic, it was very healthy. Very healthy.
Yeah, and with all these progressive bands, it's like perfect. Like some of their albums are as long as it would take for me to fly from New York to Australia. I just had to point that out there. But
yes, long way, man.
But no, it's really insane. Like I'm starting to interview like just as many like bands from Australia now as I'm interviewing bands from like Sweden. Like it just seems like that there's, and not even just Australia, but like the whole Oceania region as well. Because like New Zealand has, you know, Alien Weaponry and Blindfolded and Led to the Woods, Ulcerate, and, you know, it just seems like that there's a huge like almost resurgence. And they say that the sun can't shine bright when it comes to heavy metal music. I'm starting to think that it's the opposite.
No, it's I'm just very saddened that it kind of got a massive sort of hit the brakes, you know, like with the pandemic, because I think a lot of these bands were like, I include ourselves, we were looking to, you know, release our album and do this epic tour around it, and it was like, nope.
Better days ahead, just slightly delayed.
Yeah, and it's put like a big kind of like a question mark, I guess, at the moment. I'm not going to say a full stop because I refuse to believe that, you know, anything can kill the music. So it's put a massive question mark on it, though, on how long it's going to take for us to recover from it. slowed down that sort of reach, I guess. I mean, thankfully we've got the internet and things like this,
Yeah.
Zoom and Veeps. Thank you, Veeps.
Yeah.
So we can do sort of online streams, because imagine if we didn't have that technology.
I mean, I don't want to imagine it, but it has happened before in
Yeah.
1918. So, um, but the final question I wanted to ask you is like you mentioned that you are writing right now, and without giving too much away, but how is the new material sort of shaping to be? Are you planning to make like a continuation of Colors in the Sun? Or are you going to kind of take elements of that, or how is it looking so far? Without giving too much away, if you could just give me any sort of answer, I'll take it.
Yeah, look, I think it's incredible, the stuff we're writing at the moment. I think it's very much on brand for Voyager, in that sounds like Voyager still, but it's going to surprise a few people.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some very interesting sort of ideas coming through, but honestly, I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. Just cannot wait to get back in and start writing again and sort of finish it off. But yeah, it's sounding incredible. I'm very excited. So I hope everyone else is just as excited as we are to hear what we've got cooking in the kitchen.
Well, I mean, I do want to say that people have been talking about Voyager here in New York quite frequently, and everybody's been wanting more since the last album has come out. So
Awesome.
It'll be worth the wait. But is there just anything else with Voyager that you would like to promote with this upcoming virtual concert coming out, or anything else that you would like to plug?
Yeah, just please come for a walk down memory lane with us on this Sunday, September 5th. Voyager.veeps.com. I think it's one of the greatest things we've done in our career. I'm really proud of it. It looks and sounds incredible, and it's got a few little surprises in there for our fans that we hope they'll, I guess, laugh, cry, whatever with us. It's very emotional. There's a lot of different emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'd love to have them come and join us for it, because we had an absolute blast putting this together. It's just been such fun going back and looking at all the old photos and videos and stuff that we've sort of pulled up from the archives to put up online and stuff. And I hope everyone's been enjoying it, because we've been loving it. We've just been laughing and just reminiscing, of what a fantastic and great career we've had, and such wonderful fans. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah, a voyage through time, space, and emotion. That's how I describe everything about the Voyager catalog.
Definitely. That's it. Perfect, then.
But Simone, thank you so much. Everybody, Simone of Voyager. Pick up Colors in the Sun if you haven't already. New stuff coming soon, and catch their virtual performance, A Voyage Through Time. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.